So we have Lillian Chiu today. She is originally from Taiwan, but she moved around, lived in Vietnam for a few years, and she moved to the US, I think 6 years ago to go to NYU, go Violets. She has an incredible career path. She's been at Spotify for I believe 4 years, where she started as a business analyst. And actually, a few years ago, she started her own YouTube channel with over 200K followers or subscribers, and she does incredible videos. You guys should check her out. And not only that, she also launched a course on business analytics that is super, super successful to help more people learn how to be great analysts and to break into tech. Lillian, welcome to Botako Talks.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be on here.
We're so excited to have you. We're so excited to chat with you, share your story, maybe get into some details with our audience. So yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course.
I gotta say, I'm a huge fan of your YouTube channel. I have gone through several of your videos, and I really like how not only is it educational, but you give people insights into your day-to-day life, which is a lot of fun. I feel like some of the meals that you cooked. I mean, I looked at them a couple weeks back, but it was like a really cool like shrimp wrap, and then I think it was, I don't know if it was Game of Thrones that you were watching or House of the Dragons, but it all was like Succession. That was a good one. I love that.
Exactly. Since it's on YouTube, it's like a vlog, so I thought I would do like, fun lifestyle stuff, looking into like day in my life as a business analyst, but also make it a little bit educational because I've learned a lot at my job as a business analyst at Spotify. So I'm looking forward to sharing more about that.
And I'm a super girl fan about anything related to Spotify. Media can attest to that. I love everything about the company. I probably use Spotify more than I do any other social media, which is pretty wild. I love Spotify.
So Lillian and I go way back. We actually met on her first day as an intern at Spotify, and I guess I was a coordinator at the time. I don't even know. But she moved to Miami for the job, and I was living in Miami. Well, I'm still living in Miami. But it's pretty amazing to see, I guess, how far you've come. I'll say how far we've come too, but how far, like looking from the outside, like you first on your career, we did a lot of projects together, and I feel like me and Lillian were kind of like a power dynamic. Like she's really strategic, she knows the data, and I guess I bring in like the creativity and the passion as well. So like we've done a lot of cool projects together. And I didn't even know she was starting her YouTube channel. Lillian, don't kill me from sharing the story, but I found out because I was featured on one of her first videos, which I really appreciate, as one of like her good friends from Spotify. And our intern Sophia, shout out Sophia, she was like, "Oh, you were on Lillian's video," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I was on Lillian's video," and that's how the whole thing started. So yeah, just such a like a full circle moment.
Exactly, and now we're here on your podcast.
Now we're here. And no, so like we just to start, obviously your journey is so inspiring, I'm sure, for us and all of your followers and our followers too. I wanted to kind of get to know you a little bit better. If you could tell us about kind of like how you started in tech, and then how did you pivot to kind of also having YouTube, and then we'll go into details on everything.
Yeah, sounds good. So quick intro, I'm Lillian, and I'm currently a business strategy and operations manager at Spotify. I'm Taiwanese, I'm based in New York, and kind of how I got started in the tech career. So I think in college, because I went to NYU, and I guess there's this thing at NYU where it's like everyone is very ambitious, they're always going after for what they want. And so it's like internship is such a big thing in college. Like every semester, everyone was interning. And, throughout my internships, I realized like, hey, I really like working in the music industry because it's fun, it's interesting. I used to play piano myself, so it's really relevant for me. As I got to intern at Universal Music and Rock Nation and all these music companies, I was like, wow, I am curious about the data. Like, how do executives make decision? How do you say that, let's say Blackpink, or how do you say, which market should Blackpink go into next? And based on what data, based on what evidence? And even when they enter the market, what's the market's feedback for them? So at Universal Music, I got to do more of like insight, strategy, data, and that's where I got into the whole, you know, data analytics, business strategy within the music industry. So with that in mind, I was like, okay, the perfect company in that field is obviously Spotify, because Spotify crosses the, it's in the music industry, it's a music company, it's also a tech company, and there's definitely billions of user data. So I set my eyes on it. Fortunately, I got an internship at Spotify right out of college, and kind of just have been here since. Like it's been 5 years, and then pivoting to how I started my YouTube. So 3 years into Spotify, I got pretty good at what I do. Like I've learned a lot starting as an intern, and through all my career journey. I've met a lot of great mentors. Nika was one of them. And I was just like, wow, there's so many things I've learned. And I wish I could share this all to people who also have similar dreams like me or similar ambition like me. So I put it out in a form of YouTube blogs, day to life as a business analyst at Spotify. That's a title. And it just started to gain traction and it started to go upwards from there. So
I think your content is so relatable. And you even say this yourself, right? So like you say that you're an introvert. I know you posted a video recently about
yeah,
it too.
yeah,
Like I think it was tips on how to
yep,
interview as an introvert.
right.
How did you even, and like even knowing you too, like how did you kind of break that shell and decide, okay, like I'm gonna be on camera and I'm gonna start a YouTube channel?
Yeah, I think when I was filming, I don't think about me as like an introvert anymore. It's more almost like that purpose of me sharing the knowledge is so much bigger than me feeling like an introvert. So it's like because I know I'm doing something that I'm passionate about, because I know I'm doing something that's bigger than myself, and you know, all the insecurities about me just falls like it becomes just noise. It doesn't define me, if that makes sense.
I feel like the fact that like your passion really like drives you and it blocks away everything else that like
Yeah,
I guess I'm sure you still have doubts, everyone does, but it's
of
amazing how
course.
that really drives you.
Yeah.
I actually can relate a lot with you, Lillian. I was talking about this with a friend yesterday, actually. So he's starting to post more on LinkedIn. He's a product manager and he's really sharp and has great ideas. And he was he's just starting off and saying how you feel. We all feel. I mean, me and I have felt it as well. Insecure at the beginning because of the low engagement, but it gets to a point where you numb it out, and
Hmm.
if you can correlate low engagement to rejection after having that rejection for so long because you start off from such a low base, you just learn to overcome it, and it becomes much
Yeah.
more about just putting useful information out there independent of necessarily like any growth metrics that you want to pick out. So it just
Exactly.
becomes really, I don't know, you just numb it out a lot. So I'm assuming you already got
Yeah.
to that point,
I,
especially as you've grown to where you've grown to.
yeah. I obviously I still get anxious about like when the views are down and like, looking at the YouTube analytics. I'm sure you all can relate. But I love that what you said about the word independent. It's like when I put out my videos, now I think of it as like, hey, like this video is independent of who I am, right? Like I know who I am deep down, and I don't need to attach my self-worth or self-confidence into how my videos perform or how my content performs.
That is growth. That is growth. I'm just gonna drop the mic. On that note, I guess you started what, like 3 years, 3 years ago that you started posting on YouTube, right?
2 years,
Two
two full
years
years
ago.
actually.
Okay, so what was your mindset when you started, and how do you think that changed now, 2 years later?
Interesting. I think when it first started, it was all a lot more, I almost want to say the word like fun. Like I had nothing to like there's no worry for me. Right? I was just like, I love this so much. I'm so passionate about everything I've learned. I just want to share it out. So I was giving out a lot, like all the tips, like every day I was editing until like 2 a.m. and I would not feel tired at all because I was just like, oh, it drives me, it fuels me. But then 2 years later, I think because I've been always really consistent in putting out content and like probably at this point like thousands of hours into this whole YouTube thing. I think over time now I've learned to just be like setting boundaries in a way where it's like, okay, like I have a lot to share, but I also need to focus on my mental health and my life and my relationships and my friendships. So I think now I'm treating it more as a business almost. Like it's what I do in addition to its fun, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I feel like you have a whole team. Even like I know Albert, your boyfriend, is also helps you as well.
Yeah, exactly. I've
Power
started
couple.
to,
Power couple,
yeah,
literally.
because I mean, we've been together for a long time now, and he saw my whole like growth journey. And I think it started from a place of empathy. Like, I was just so stressed all the time, thinking about, especially when I started to monetize it and I have sponsorships and stuff like that. And he works in business development, so that's his niche. And then he was just like, "Hey, like, let me help you." And over time, it became a partnership thing. We handle things together. He's also my therapist in a way, where it's like when I freak out on the video performance, you calm me down, be like, "It's okay. Like, it's gonna do well. It's not about you. You know, it's the algorithm." So yeah,
Lillian, you mentioned monetization, sponsors. I know you also launched a course on business analytics. How do you decide
yeah.
which path to pursue? How long did it take to create it? And then I don't know if you can just talk a little bit about your go-to-market strategy, from putting out free content out there to eventually starting to monetize your business.
Yeah, I actually started my YouTube thinking like I even if I don't make any money off of it, I would still do it. I like money was never like a factor I thought about. It was just like I grew up watching YouTube and I love YouTube videos and vlogs. So I was like, I want to make it myself and I want to like get better at it. And then I think over time, the business strategy parts kind of naturally just falls in. And I was just like, okay, like I talk a lot about business analytics, about me working in a tech company. So they're more kind of like tech businesses or platforms that want to work with me. So that's kind of where I got into the niche.
And on the course side, how I mean, how did that come about in terms of making the product available and distributing it?
Yeah, I guess over on a high level, it's mostly like I share a lot about, hardcore business analytics tips in my vlogs. But obviously in the vlogs, I share probably 2 minutes of it because I don't want to bore the audience. And then I would just see a lot of comments being like, hey, like I want to know more. Like I want to go in depth, right? Like I something longer. So I was like, okay, if I want to make it a 3 hour or 4 hour course, like why don't I just do that, right? Like then you can listen to something super in depth and you get all the details and it fits. Um, I'm a perfectionist, so I was like, okay, let's think about the course. And like I started writing the outline or scripting myself and I did filming and everything. And then at some point I realized like, holy, like this is crazy. Like this is bigger than what I set out to do. Like it's a full on project. It's not just a side thing that I can do, after work. So that's when I started to look for help and distributors and partnering with an agency in Taiwan, who also like understands my audience, who was on it. They also watch, they already know me from YouTube. So we started that collaboration from there.
I feel like a lot of people want to start courses nowadays, and like it's so amazing to see how successful yours has been. Can you
Thank
talk a
you.
little bit just about the process? I know you talked just now, you mentioned high level, but how long did it take you really? And like you mentioned the agency as well. Did they help with production or do they come in more like in the back end of the process?
I It's funny because like I almost did it in a way where I just figure it out as I go. And I think if there's any advice I have for people who want to start a side business or a course, let's say, it's just do it and then you figure it out along the way because you can never be so ready to launch something, right? Like you can't find all the right team and right person and do it, but because if you don't do it, how do you know what you need? So I think I just went on like one solo doing this on my laptop and write the script, did everything, and then I was like, okay, what else do I need that I can't achieve myself? For instance, I don't know how to set up a website. I don't know. I can't edit, a 10-hour raw footage of videos with animation and graphics the way I want. I'm not an editor, so I need an editor. And I need, the ad design. I also need to translate everything into Mandarin because I have a large Mandarin speaking audience. So based on those, then I was kind of narrowing down to like, okay, who are the type of person who can help me? What are type of services out there that can help me solve these pain points? So that's where the agency kind of come about. In terms of the whole timeline, because I'm doing this on the side, like part-time, I only did it on the weekends. So it took me 1 year end to end, from starting this idea to planning to bringing the agency to, doing a full-on partnership to launching it. So yeah, it's a long and difficult process.
Lillian, I think it's great how you are super self-aware of what are the things that you can and can't do. Not only were you
Yeah.
mindful of the time it takes to build it out, but you also knew what your strengths were and what you can delegate. And clearly, it allowed you to build a product that has gone out and has clients that are using it and is helping a
Yeah.
lot of people. Now,
Yeah.
on the lines of monetization, I want to get into the personal finance side a bit. I think monetizing is kind of that North Star. It's that cherry on the top because, as you mentioned, oftentimes when we start side hustles, and we've seen it, it's one of those things where everything is upside because you're gaining so much along the way in terms of personal growth and helping others or whatnot. But once you start monetizing, you said it yourself, it's different, right? It becomes a business, less of a side project. So how has, now that you're making money off of this side hustle, has it changed your life personally and financially? Has it opened some doors that maybe wouldn't have been possible otherwise, to the extent that it's changed kind of how you've approached your professional career?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'll go into three parts. Like first is like personally, honestly, personally, it hasn't changed. If anything, it makes me more aware of who I am, because like as a creator, I have to really know myself before I can share about myself, right? And I've become more reflective of everything that's happened in my life, like on a daily basis. It's like, let's say I go in a meeting at work and someone talked about something, and then in the back of my mind, I'll be like, oh, like this is really a great idea. Like, let me think about how to elaborate it into my videos and teach, let's say, how introverts do small talks in meetings. So like really being really aware, and also emotionally, it's like, okay, like today I'm feeling tired, so I don't want to film. Like just setting that boundaries, right? Or it's like, okay, I want to delegate this to this person, and how do I manage that person? How do I build a team? How do I make it more efficient, since now we're in the monetization phase of things? And I think financially, I feel like now I'm more aware of like how to manage my savings. It's like there's the high yield saving, right? There's the what is it? The index fund. There's like the high risk stock. There's a Roth IRA. So
Love
just
music
getting
to
the
my ears.
bits of exactly.
Get fit hyped.
Yeah, I see the smile on you. And also knowing the implication of like, hey, if you put the money in the stock market, those money should be treated as things that you don't want to like take out of right away. Like I'm thinking long term, right? Like at least 3 years plus. For the money in the high yield, it's like I know what transferring into my own bank account to use takes 3 to 5 business days. So it's more of a short term thing. And then in the money that's in my checking account, it's an emergency fund, right? Like if I suddenly get into a car accident or something, I hope not, then I can like withdraw the money right away. So I think just be more aware of like how I put different eggs in a bucket and what buckets are there available for me to like invest, my finances.
Real quick, talking about brands. I know you mentioned you've closed, I'm sure, a lot of brand deals. When did that start? And what was kind of like that process like? How did you know how to negotiate with the brands? I feel like this is something that's always kind of brought up.
Is the brand sponsorship started, I think when I had like 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I started monetizing, and like there was actually traction on each of my videos, because brands these days, they don't actually just look at your subscribers, they look at your engagement. So like the average views you have per video, because that's where they know like people are bought into you as a person, your content, and that's where people are more likely to purchase the products in your videos. So yeah, and it kind of just came naturally. Like I didn't really use an agency. I know there are people out there who have like talent managers and all that stuff, but because I started out, I didn't monetization wasn't a goal to start with, so I was just going with the flow. And surprisingly, like because I put my email in the description box, and some brands just started to reach out to me. It's been like this until today. And in terms of negotiation, I definitely did some research on like Reddit and like all these places I can think of. And, there are different ways of calculating how much you're worth, like how much your content is worth. You can do like cost per 1,000 views, or you can set a flat rate. But for me, because, I think and this is like how do I say, it's always a controversial topic, right? Like how do you really negotiate? How do you set a price for yourself? For me, I'm always like, okay, I know my self-worth. I know I spend a lot of effort on each video. Each video takes me around 100 hours to edit, and I,
Wow.
take care of a lot of the very small details. So for me, I have a number in my head, and I give that number to the brand. And if if they say no, then I'm okay with it, because I would rather me focusing on my content at the end of the day and not get distracted by, because this brand wants to work with me. Then at the end of the day, I'm just working with brands left and right. And I don't want that, because I want to keep my content like something that is really sacred for me. It's really precious for me.
There's this thought leader who I love, which is, I don't know if you've heard of him, it's called Naval Ravikant, and he always mentions the importance of assigning a value to your time and to your hour.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to see how you've approached that and on how you're looking to set a price on your content. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you have benchmarks and comps to see.
Yeah.
You don't want to be super
Hmm.
priced out of the
Right.
market, but you also
Right.
know
Totally.
what is kind of your minimum value for it to be worth your time. And I think
Yeah.
this leads me kind of to my next question of, now that you have kind of multiple revenue streams, not only from your job, but also from your YouTube content, both from brands and from the course, how have you thought about allocating that time to find that balance in between professional and side hustle while also not burning out? Because when you say that it takes you 100 hours to make a video, my mind is like exploding right now, because it's just
Yeah.
a lot of time. And I think it also goes to show how people really underestimate. And again, I'll show some love to Mita, because she does the editing for our videos, how long it takes to really put quality content out there.
Exactly. I want to go back to what you said, because I think a lot of people think that content creators or podcasters are out there like, oh, their job is so easy. That's not true, because what you see is 10 minutes of us right in front of the camera, or for podcasts like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. But the work that goes behind the scene, including filming, scripting, thinking about it, and it becomes your life. Like it's ingrained into like I was talking to Mika, and everything I said, she was respond with like, oh, like that would be great for Potato Talks. Like, oh, do you want to go on Potato Talks? Like it's always on for content creators. And I think that's something that people don't realize until they're actually in the field themselves. But in terms of how I time manage, again, like going to what I said earlier, it's like you learn as you go. I used to do everything myself, and obviously I burned out. I suffer from mental health situations a little bit. I'm much better now, but it also allowed me to learn, like, okay, like this is not healthy, right? We're not machines. We can't do everything ourselves. So learning how to delegate, and really sitting down with myself and understand, like, okay, what part of the YouTube process do I like? And I'll just keep the stuff that I like to do. So that means thinking about what content angle it is, thinking about the strategy, creating filming, because I still really like filming. Also the storytelling bit. So then the next question for me is like, uh, if I remove all of that, if I keep that, what else needs to be done for a video to go out? So that's when I try to figure out like what type of people do I need to hire, what services do I need. So it's very similar exercise as what I did with when I was launching my course. So now I think I have a better balance. Like on the weekends, I really try not to open my laptop. Like I would rather wake up earlier on weekdays before my work to work on something, and then really keep the weekends for myself to relax.
As a last question, and I know you already kind of gave a little bit of advice, but I do want to reiterate or ask you, is there anything else that you want to share with listeners that want to start their journey as a creator, as a YouTuber, whatever it be? Like, what is kind of one piece of advice that you would give them?
Yeah, I love that you asked this question. I'm actually putting a YouTube video in June to share about how you find your side hustle that fits you. So my advice for that is, finding what you love to do, what like you finding your passion and let that passion drive you. Because starting a side hustle or starting anything is will be difficult, like along the way, especially when you start monetizing, as you bring in more people to help you as it turns into a business. So at the end of the day, it's really being brutally honest with yourself and ask like, am I passionate about what I'm doing? Because if it's not, if the answer is no, then it's really hard to keep going when things get rough, right? So just, you know, what I do is I journal every day and I reflect on the things that happened to me today and how I feel about them. And over time, I get an awareness of the things I like to do, the things I don't like to do. And it's okay if you don't like to do something. We can't do, we're not perfect 100% in everything out there in this world. So just being okay with, hey, this is my weakness, but at the same time, celebrate your strength and figure out how to amplify your strength, and let that be the wants that you focus on.
Lillian, so I started reading this book about, I think it's The Formula to Financial Wealth. I forget the name, from Scott Galloway. It just came out. And one of the things he says, and he's reiterated, is to not only follow your passion, but also follow your talents. And when I see all the content that you've done and the business that you've created through YouTube, I think it's an excellent example of that. Because yes, you're very passionate about what you do, but you're also very talented and very meticulous. I mean, when you say that you put 100 hours per video, and that it takes a year to produce a course, even when you have people to help you, I think it just goes to show how hard work really pays off, how financially you should put yourself in a position to succeed. In that, I think having multiple sources of income is integral to financial security and well-being.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
congratulate on that, and it's great. It's been great to see.
Yeah, thank you. I think even though, yes, it was hard work, but at the same time, it was also fun work for me because I was like, I look forward to the team meetings. I look forward to like, seeing the new graphics that my editor did. So I think there's some funness in it too. And, that's the part that got me through everything until today.
It keeps us going. Passion keeps us going.
Yeah.
And money.
Thank you.
I'm just
Thank
kidding.
you. And money. Well, forfeit, but thank you so much for being here. This was incredible.
Yeah.
To our listeners, go check out Lillian's latest video on YouTube and follow her on Instagram as well. And we'll catch you on the next one.